Man, I can't get that enough of that clip. Hey, everybody. Ron Onesky here with you. Hanging and banging another Thursday night. This is episode number 80. We made it to 80 episodes. It's amazing. We've talked to some of the biggest names in rock and roll, as we will tonight. Members of the one of the most amazing bands in rock and roll history, Deep Purple. We are so excited. Before we do that, let's bring to the screen my brothers, Vinny and Carmine. Apathy and a piece.
I changed mine to a piece now.
Come on. Don't mess me up.
I changed mine to apathy.
So it works anyway.
No. It took me 80 episodes to get this right. Don't do this to me. Please.
Well,
I got it.
But it's still the same. You said it right. He's a apathy and I'm a piece. See, I'm confused too.
Oh my God, I got a headache. Can we just preempt this show and just go to next week? I don't know. You're killing me here. Anyway, it's good to see you guys.
I flew to your town last couple of days ago, Midway Airport. I never been to Midway Airport in Chicago.
You're definitely watching your pennies and you're flying through Midway. That's for sure.
Well, it was Southwest. They only fly to Midway. But I used to fly the flight simulator on the computer, Microsoft Flight Simulator. I always used to land at Midway, then take off, fly to O'Hara. So I thought, wow, going to Midway.
Oh, good. So if they need a pilot, they'll call you, right? Something happens to the pilot.
No, yeah. If we need a pilot, we'll call one of our guests. And we're going to talk about that later on. So why don't we do that? Why don't we get our guests from Deep Purple? Let's just get them both on.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's so exciting. You got founding member Ian Paice and, of course, one of the rock and rollers of all time, Steve Morse. With us. Hey guys, thanks for joining us.
All right.
Awesome.
Wait a second. We're gonna toast to you, Ian, freaking royalty guy. I mean, really. I mean, beside the fact that you're in the UK and you are a royalist, but really, rock and roll royalty. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we all believe Carmine's rock and roll royalty. We know that. And of course, by the way, Vinny and Steve, are you kidding me? It's going to be a great night tonight.
That leaves Vinny and Steve. Yeah.
You know what? Let me ask you a question. Do you disagree?
The two young guys, right, Ian?
Yeah. The kids. Well, great to see you guys. I know, Ian, you are in the UK right now. What time is it out there?
Just after midnight. It's well past my bedtime.
Me too.
Yeah.
And Steve, you're out in, where was it? In South Florida?
Central Florida. So Eastern time, New York time.
Well, it's great to see you guys. And first, right off the bat, everybody wants to know, I know there's a couple things happening. What is happening with the Purple on tour? You got some things happening?
I just saw them in Florida. And I got to say, it was an awesome show. And I think it's really come up a level since you got Steve and Don Airy in the band. When they were taking those fours together and fours, twos, ones, and then jamming out, and then Ian was just awesome. And actually, Ian, Roger Glover was great, and Ian Gillan was singing his ass off. Man.
Yeah,
he was really.
Nothing but
great.
incredible reviews. I mean, you've been getting reviews, since the late '60s. They're incredible, but really, as Carmine's mentioned, even as of late, it's just rocking harder than you ever have, or as hard as you ever have.
Well, theoretically, the more you do it, the longer you do it, the better you should get at it.
After a certain point, after approaching 70 years, you're thinking, okay, But it's amazing. It really is amazing. It just how, and all kidding aside, I mean, it just shows just how what the strength of a band when you can be not just relevant, but as relevant and as powerful and as popular as you guys have been. What do you attest to that? I mean, besides just great music, but you're still coming out with new material. I want to talk about the album that came out last year in November in a minute. But what can you say about this, especially Steve? How is it that you feel that you guys are just keep staying relevant and what is what can you attest to that?
Well, I think there's several things. One, the band loves to record and tour, so there's always that. Nobody has to make much of a suggestion before the band all says, "Yeah, let's do it." The only thing they like to do more is talk about soccer.
All right.
And not you, though. Not you, right?
Well, they're so confused about it. They think football is something that you kick instead of throw.
Yeah.
They've been wrong about that for years.
I agree. But
that's what the Boston Tea Party was all about. It was about soccer.
Right. Well, you were there, weren't you? Oh, yeah. Anyway.
Hey. Having Bob Ezrin as our producer has really helped because he gets a lot out of Ian Gillan. He gets a lot out of the band, and he's a tough taskmaster for people like me, but he loves the band, and I think the band really enjoys working with him, and he just having an outside force saying no, go back and change that, go back and do that again. Let's do this and that, and it's really helped add a little bit of extra energy to everything.
Yeah, I did sessions with Bob, and the biggest one was the Pink Floyd track, and he just had worked me all freaking day. It was like, let's do another one. I had I don't know how many, 6 reels of 24 track, slow speed filled up, and he was going to put it all together. And I never really heard it until the thing came out, even though he told me, call me next week, I'll see how we're doing. That never happened. But he's an awesome producer.
He's changed.
Hey, I have a question for Steve. You wear a glove when you play. Right?
Yeah.
What is that?
All right. I have arthritis in my right hand. It's from 50-something years of twisting my pick like this, and muting here and here. So the muting the strings that I'm not playing. And that's worked very well as a technique to play cleanly. However, it eventually wore out these bones, the cartilage between the bones. So when I play, it's ow, 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 ow. And
man.
When I move my wrist, although I'm practicing with a stiff wrist. So the glove holds the anesthetic, topical anesthetic. It keeps it from drying out. And also sometimes I wear a brace to try to encourage me to not move my wrist. Because when you're playing, you don't feel as much.
I thought you were picking, and there were like nails at the end of that glove that you were picking with.
Interesting.
Like little picks,
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
And, I couldn't figure it out, and I didn't get to see it that night. I hung out with Ian and everybody else that night until wee hours in the morning. I didn't get home till 2:30 in the morning that night.
Well, I was still driving at 2:30 morning because I went.
Yeah, that's right. So I texted you, didn't I?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Hey, Ian, that beer looks really good.
Oh man, that
Look
English
at that.
brew.
Oh,
so
It
what
looks
is
like
English
it definitely
brew?
looks like an English beer.
yeah, it
No,
looks
no,
like
it-
it looks like
hold
the
it up. It's an English beer. Look at
This,
that.
this is a German Pils, my friend.
I could vouch for that. That's why when we were on tour and I want to know which beer to drink, I asked Ian because we have somewhat similar taste in that, and he'll just point to one out of 8 choices and said that one, and he's always right.
It looks
Wanna
like
know,
that'll
Ian.
go good with Indian food.
Oh yeah.
Ian, what is your pick? Your pick for a brew in
Uh,
America? Let's say what could I get in America that you would like?
Warsteiner, Bitburger. I don't mind, like a Michelob is a nice beer. It's quite good.
Wow.
Really?
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
I'm not too keen on Bud. That's a bit tasteless to me, but yeah.
Ah.
Miller, some Miller. That's not bad.
Do you like
Yeah.
any of those? Do you ever like a stout now and then?
Not so much stouts. Occasionally, I'll go to a pub and have an English bitter, just for a different flavor. Like you have a red wine or a white wine. You know,
Right. Yeah.
they're both wine, but they're different, and they're both beers and they're different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, Steve,
Anyway.
I got to ask you. You know, you joined the band obviously a few years ago. You've been rocking with Purple for a while, and let's pretend Ian is not on this. He's not listening right now. Okay, he's not here right now. What's it like? I mean, with a guy like that who's been around, the founder of the band, he's got a great demeanor, but a very professional approach. What's it like working with a guy like Ian?
Well, he's easy to work with because what you see is what you get. And as in the band dynamic, Ian doesn't he doesn't like act like, hey, this is my band. He just, when he says something though, you should listen because it's really important when he does that. So he stays out of the way, lets people argue amongst themselves. And then when he thinks we're losing the plot, then he'll jump in and say, hey, let's get back to where, this isn't feeling good. Let's go back to where we were, 20 minutes ago or something like that. Right. And like I said,
and then when the black eyes are gone, I come and say it again.
Yeah.
So how long have you been with the band now, Steve?
Well, if you count from the time we got the call, it's 29 years.
Wow.
But if you count from the first gig, it's 28 years.
Yeah, but you got a lot.
Either way, it's long. It's longer than
not the last 2 years off because we didn't do anything.
That's right. Good point.
But we just played again.
We did.
And we were standing by to play the whole time.
But you know what? Since you brought that up, Carm, okay, Steve. So you're doing you did kind of a little bit of a short run with Kansas. You decided to leave that. Then you became a pilot, and then from a pilot you went to Purple. I mean, how did all those transitions happen?
All right, I'll try to make this quick. I've always been a pilot since I could I got a job that paid.
Wow.
In college, I got my license. Then I got my instrument rating, and then flew the band around a lot.
Wow.
And that's how I built up a bunch of hours. And the guy that owned one of the planes we were flying around in, I would spend a lot of time in the right seat at first, and then later in the left seat, flying the band. But he said, you know what, you got enough hours to you could be at the airline right now, and they're hiring one or two people every year. It was like hardly anybody could get on.
Which band was that? With Kansas?
No, Drake.
Was it Dregs? Okay.
What kind of plane?
What
kind of plane?
Cessna 310R that's what I flew the band in the most. That's the plane that I own. I own two of them. And
oh wow! Nice. Before
then, we rented a MU2 Mitsubishi.
So when we go on tour, we can call you to fly us around.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. I mean,
wow.
It's an amazing. Do you ever? I mean, are you still doing it now? Did you say?
Well, yeah. I mean, today I was just up right before I checked in for the technical thing. I fly every day briefly.
How high were you?
How many times have you been asked that question?
In the plane.
Well, the day before yesterday, I was soaring. I had the engine off for an hour and a half, and I was just circling around in the clouds.
Really?
I'm not in the clouds, but underneath the clouds to get lift, and then go to the next one. And it's kind of a neat thing when when gasoline is crazy to just say, hey, I'm just soaring, and you see a lot of birds and meet a lot of birds while you're doing it. I was going to
say down here in Florida, there's so many birds.
I never hit a bird.
They take off and then they just soar around.
Yeah, they show me sometimes if I'm circling around and saying this is pretty cool, and I see a hawk over there, I go, hey, he might have a better line, so I go over there and say, sure enough, hey, yeah, I'm getting an extra 100 feet per minute.
Wow.
Perspective that you don't hear very often, really. you actually
amazing.
get some input from the birds, which
Oh, definitely.
makes sense if you think about it.
They're
Yeah.
curious about me because it's a big white bird with long
Yeah.
wings, but they hang with me, and I've never hit one. And
Wow, that's fantastic.
In England, birds
That's
are
because they're
chicks,
better
right?
flyers than you are.
no, definitely, they're much more maneuverable.
Let me ask you, Ian.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great moniker to be part of the unholy trio of British rock bands with Zeppelin and Sabbath, of course, and Purple. Give me a cool interaction either with Zeppelin or with Sabbath or with both.
Not so much with Sabbath, purely because we were always working all the time, you know, and really, if you were on tour, unless your paths crossed, you didn't see them, so you didn't really know. Zeppelin a little bit more, you know, but even that was sort of hit and miss, you know. I probably knew John a little better than anybody else, and that was just like a casual, "Hi, how are you? What are you doing?" You know. Everybody was on the road all the time.
I remember
Right.
being on our English tour, Ian.
Yeah.
And Robert Plant, he snuck backstage, and he wouldn't even take. I offered him a drink. He wouldn't even drink or eat anything because he thought we were going to drug him. Or no, he had that happen in the past.
Wow.
And so he just, as a rule, he won't take anything that anybody hands him.
Yeah, but you know,
Wow.
if I get sent stuff through the post, or if I get a gift at the gig, food or drink, I don't touch it either because you never know. I say
That's
thank you
why-
to whoever gives it, you know. But
That's why I always get the cookies that
Yeah.
people give him. That he hands them to me to see if I drop that.
no, you got to be careful, man. You got to be careful.
Well, you can see the young guys. You can give the cookies to the young guys. You know?
Yeah, the hash cookies. Are you,
That's
Ian? I wanted to go back to a show, and I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was 2003. It was I mean, you're talking Clapton, you're talking Bono, you're talking Pavarotti. I mean, it was in Italy. What was this show about?
Every year, Pavarotti did a big benefit show in Modena, which is
Modena, right?
Yeah, which is just outside of Bologna, and it's a mixed bill. You know, he'd have the orchestra and he'd do his classical stuff, and then he'd have artists from different genres of music, and just build a whole show around it.
Wow.
So we got the call to do it. And my first experience with it was not great. We were playing this very, very gentle tune, and the conductor wanted me to look like I was playing. So I went, okay. So I put the sticks down, I got some brushes, just started flapping around, you know, and I followed him, which is like pointless, you know, because he goes upstroke. Then about a second later, the orchestra decide to play it. So I'm with him, right? And he's telling me that I'm wrong. Because we've got 90 other guys all together, perfectly together, but taking no notice of what he's doing with the baton. They're looking at me and I'm shouting back at him.
They were watching the first violinist. It's true.
Yeah.
The conductor's his downbeat is not the downbeat.
No, on the upbeat, it was like ba, ba.
Yeah, it was.
You can't play to that. You just can't. So
It's really funny.
So
Hey,
in the
Ian,
end,
tell
I
him-
just mimed it. I just went flapped around like that.
That's great.
Did you
Tell
have
him that
interaction with
story.
Pavarotti?
Sorry.
Did you have any interaction with Luciano at all?
Oh yeah, he was a nice fella. Yeah.
So
I was gonna
Pavarotti
say-
is a Purple fan. How cool is that?
That's cool.
There is a lovely little story between him and Ian Gillan at the rehearsals, and Pavarotti was saying, "Look, I'm really jealous of you." And he said, "What do you mean? Why are you jealous of me?" He says, "Because every time you sing a song, you can change it every night. You can put your emotion, your inspiration for that night." He said, "If I do that with one of the classical arias, I get slated.
Oh wow.
It has to be the same.
Wow.
It has to be the way they expect it to be." He said, "The freedom you have in popular music is something that he's so jealous of."
Interesting.
When he did the run through of Ness and Dorma, that last note, da, 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 you know, the super high, stressed out note that
Vincero.
Thank you. That was good pronunciation too.
So us Italian guys,
but during the rehearsal, he didn't do that, and so it's like, wow, what's going to happen tonight at the show? Is he going to do it? Yeah. And of course he did and nailed it. But like Ian was saying, if he didn't hit that high note, then there would have been this whole thing of, you know, is he over? Is it finished?
Yeah.
Oh, for one little crack or something, oh my gosh, it would have been international news. Did you say you guys didn't play with him, did you, or did you?
Yeah, we played.
You backed him up, or part with the orchestra?
Yeah. In fact, John and I wrote an intro to the tune, which we thought it was what we were supposed to do is you know, combine musical parts before the Ness and Dorma started, and you know, we had it all laid out, and Pavarotti came in to the little room where we were, and he said, no, you got to do it like the record. so we're all right. And so we just accompanied him.
Yeah, those classical guys, they don't jam, man.
They don't. There you go. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
We did a show with a band over here where I live for the city, and it was with the Temecula Valley Orchestra. And he starts counting us off, and he was doing that. 1 and 2.
Oh yeah.
And we're all looking like, what the hell is that? You know, so I made a deal with him. I said, why don't I count it off 2 bars, and then you could do that on the second bar. And we couldn't figure it out what he was doing. You know,
well, it's that upbeat thing, you see.
That upbeat, yeah.
But we don't. We downbeat it.
It's because, and the reason is the orchestra, they see where the conductor's laying down the downbeat, but they're not going to go until that first violin does, because they'll look like fools if they play in time. So that's why they wait. So it works best if the drummers set the tone and the percussion guys totally lock in with the drummers.
Yeah.
Like with Paice, it was Pace's show. He was with them. And the percussion guys know it too. They're like, don't worry, we got you. And they push the orchestra to keep up with us.
Yeah, the other thing is we started working with younger orchestras too.
Yeah,
and they may play classical music, but they listen to jazz and they listen to rock.
True.
So they understand.
Yeah.
30, 40 years ago, the average age of the orchestra was a little higher, and they had no knowledge of any other sort of music, not even jazz. And so they just lived in this classical world, and they couldn't change. You know, it was impossible. The younger orchestras now, because they're part of a big musical picture, they understand it.
Right.
And they can take the time from the drummer. And a really good conductor, like the guy we used in the past.
So did you guys play your songs with the orchestra?
Yeah, we played some of ours and we played some of John's.
Because we did an orchestra DVD with Vanilla Fudge, and you know, it was what a great experience that was.
Oh yeah.
And then we did People Get Ready, which I sang, and you know, it was just an organ and the orchestra, and it was like so different to sing with all those wood instruments, you know, rather than an organ alone. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's different.
It was really, really cool.
When he would do, especially, that's why it's really interesting, you know, when Pavarotti would do that, or he would do Pavarotti and Friends, and he had like Paul Young, Zucchero with him, you know, those kind of guys. And just, you know, we talked about how when you said, you know, classical guys don't really jam, but in a way it is a jam by the end. You know, you got all these people together doing, it's not a Grateful Dead show by any means, but it is kind of a classical jam kind of a thing, and it's an extremely cool thing. I mean, really, really is. It was really cool to see you guys a part of it.
Well, it was different. That was for sure.
It was great.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you know you're doing it for a worthwhile cause. So
of course,
no matter how you felt about it and how difficult it might have been, or whether you really enjoyed it or not, you know, at the end of the night, there's going to be a lot of euros, dollars, Swiss francs made for a good cause, and that makes it okay. You know, you
absolutely.
Say, okay, it was tough, but we did something good, you know.
Yeah.
And that's serious. That's serious money, serious euros. That's not, a $5,000 gig. I mean, that was a real. What he did with that. Steve, you played by me before. Obviously, I'm a huge Flying Colors fan. What you guys do with that, spectacular with Neil Morse, of course, and our buddy Mike Portnoy and the guys. Mike was just by me. What was it? I had Neil Morse last week actually.
Yep.
And then we got Transatlantic coming. Anyway, you've got obviously the heavy prog rock aspect of Flying Colors. You got the you've got the metal. You got the hard rock of Purple. Is there any kind of what's the differential in style of music, or is it really that close? Being that Purple kind of pretty much began as a prog rock band.
Well, I think you got your finger on it right there. When you think about what John Lord brought, which was his love for classical music and a real curiosity about applying that to rock music, and then Richie being a very accomplished studio musician who had played lots of different styles himself, he could sort of get swept away with some of the side roads that John would take. And after John left, we were super lucky to have Don turn out to be a lot the same way. And Don's not only on top of that,
even more.
Yeah, Don has more jazz influence even. And so we have this super broad palette to choose from. And both John Lord and Don Airey have the most amazing ears, as far as hearing what I'm doing and responding to it or playing off it or adding to it. That's what I tell people, when they say, what was it like when you first met the band? I said, well, I was tuning it up. I played something. John Lord played it right back. I played something else. He played it right back and added to it. I added to it. And suddenly the band started jamming. And an hour later, we were all laughing and slapping each other on the back. It was great.
I tell you, it's a great band and takes prog rock to a great level. To love Flying Colors. I don't want to spend a lot of time on Smoke on the Water because that's been done a billion times. All the questions, it's been asked, everything. But for me, as I'm out there talking to people, a lot of people don't actually know the entire story. They know that it was a Zappa concert, that they know that it was a fire at a Zappa concert. But I'd like to get to the part where you guys were apparently in the audience. Number one, number two, why did you decide to write a song about it? And number three, it seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, that all five of you kind of wrote the song together. And how did that dynamic happen?
Well, when we started to record the album, the casino had already burnt down. Mm-hmm. So then that was where we were going to do the record. So that was.
Now, the casino was where everybody played.
Yeah, it was the gig.
We played there with Fudge, with Cactus, with BBA.
Yeah.
It was it was a place that everybody played in Montreux, Switzerland, right on the lake. It was gorgeous.
Yeah. Anyway, it was just a blackened ruin. And so we had to try and find somewhere else to record. And the guy who ran the festival, Claude Nobb, said, look, you can try it in this ballroom. So we set up in the ballroom. We were just trying to get a sound together. And Richie had this riff. So let's try the da 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 song. Okay, so how are we going to start it? So we'll try the riff, and I'll just do a hi-hat thing, and we'll let it build up. Now this was an echoey old ballroom, Now Montreux at that time of the year has sort of gone to sleep. It's a summer resort, No skiing there; it's too low. But it's got the lake and all the rest of it. So by 10 o'clock, the whole village is comatose. And then this rock band starts up in this echoey old ballroom. And anyway, we'd been at it about 10 minutes, and then we saw these blue lights come flashing by the door. And we were just finishing a take. I think we got 2 takes done, something like that. Anyway, Martin Burt said, don't let anybody in, So the roadies were holding the door until we finished the take. The cops came in and said, that's it, you can't do anymore. So we had to move again. And we eventually went to the Grand Hotel, which was a hotel which was shut in the winter. And we forgot about that track. We were just getting a sound. And when we finished the record, we found that we were a few minutes shy. It wasn't long enough for an album. We had a track that could have gone on. It was the ballad When a Blind Man Cries. But Richie didn't want a slow song on the record. He wanted it all to be up. So what about that track we did in the ballroom? Well, listen to it. That sounds all right. That sounds okay. And so, look, there's no words to the song yet. So Ian and Roger went away. And Roger looked back at his notebook. And he was writing down his impressions as we saw the flames going up. And the downdraft from the mountains pushed the smoke down across the lake. I mean, oh, look, smoke on the water.
And there it is.
That's where the title came from. They said, well, why don't we write a song about the making of the record? And so that's how Smoke on the Water got completed. And that's how it ended up on the record. Otherwise, it would have just been lost.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
as a sound
incredible.
check.
That's incredible.
I knew there was another angle there that isn't covered as much. It's been out there, but and what we're going to do, guys, we are going to take a quick short break. We do have a commercial. I don't know who did it. Carmine, you must have done this commercial this week, right?
I must have.
You must have. Okay, we're going to go and to a commercial.
Because they can never get a hold of you guys.
I know what you're talking about. Let's see what's happening next week on Hangin' and Bangin', Artists on Lockdown, and we'll be right back.
Hey, this is Carmine Paice of Hangin' and Bangin'. March 10th, Ann Wilson of Heart, the voice of Heart. That's going to be a great show. I know her for a long time. And Leland Sclera of the Immediate Family. I know him for a long time. He played with me with Rick Derringer. He's the bass player with that long beard. You recognize him when you see him. So check it out, Hangin' and Bangin', Artists on Lockdown on Facebook. And also my official Facebook, Carmine Paice Official, and Hangin' and Bangin' on YouTube. That's March 10th, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, and at 4 o'clock in the West Coast. So we'll see you guys then. Ciao.
I'm so proud of you, man. You nailed it. Yeah, you're sporting the pink shirt.
You're such a ham, man.
He is, isn't he?
I learned that from Vinny. I had to do two shows. I had to do the one for this show and that one. So I actually changed my shirt.
That's going to be a good one.
I had the pleasure
And I changed my
playing.
location.
Yeah. I had the pleasure of playing with Leland a few years ago at a weird
He's
thing
awesome.
in Germany. And the local kids, they won a competition, and if they won, they could get on stage with some pros and have fun playing with them. So Leland was there, and we played a couple of tunes together. And it was like being back in school again with a headmaster. If the tempo slipped at all, you just got this. The head came around and then you went, oh shit!
And the beard swung around.
Oh man!
We did that Derringer and the Peace record in the early '80s with him, and boy, he was a monster. Really great.
Oh,
really
still
great.
is. Still is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey, little piece of history here. Steve played on my Guitar Zeus record on this one track that was in 13/8. I just sent it to you, Ian.
Yeah,
Ian never heard it before, Steve, so I sent it to him last week. 13/8, rocking in 13/8, dude.
8, man.
Nice.
I don't know how you do that.
Well,
No.
when we played with one of the orchestras on our orchestra tour, one of the tunes we ended up playing in 15/16. It wasn't meant to be.
No. That's always fun, right?
That's jazz, man.
That's jazz.
There was
guys,
always several bars that way.
Let's
What does
talk
that
about
what does that break down to? Like 8.5 or 7.5 or something?
This is your problem to solve for next week.
It would have been yeah.
That's a math
little-
problem.
Just where the downbeats.
That's
didn't
like
line up.
when the guy mixed the Guitar Zeus record. He said to me, "It's my daughter calling. She's going to Europe tomorrow." I said, "Yeah, you better
She's
be
going to
careful."
Europe?
Yeah,
Wow.
so on a honeymoon.
No.
So, but anyway, the guy that mixed the Guitar Zeus records, he listened to it. He said, "I need a calculator for this record."
Yeah, right. You do. or a 16-year-old with their phone to figure it out for us, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Guys, let's talk about the album came out, I believe, in November last year, Turn to Crime. My favorite, Rockin' Pneumonia and the Boogie Woogie. I love that.
Yeah.
But what made you? So it's basically, if not all, a covers album, right?
No, what else can you do? we only create new music when we're together.
Sure.
That's why you always see the 5 names on the publishing, because everything starts from a jam. One of us might start something. If it's no good, everybody goes and gets a cup of coffee. But if they start joining in, then you might have something.
Mm-hmm.
And
so that's your process.
Yeah. So, at the end of 10 days, 2 weeks, you've probably got enough ideas that you think have possibilities, So that's the way it works for us. Now, if you can't get together, you can't write new music. And after a little while, you say, well, you've got to do something. So you can record remotely now. Luckily, most of us have little studio set up so we could do it. Mm-hmm. So we just chose a bunch of songs or a bunch of styles of music that was sort of important to us when we were much younger. And, I think once we start recording it and we realized it didn't sound like we were continents apart, it did sound like we were playing together, and it had a nice vibe to it, then we were happy with it. And it was great fun to not have to worry about creating something new.
Yeah.
Just taking somebody else's genius and having fun with it.
We had an album of original stuff that got released during pretty much when we couldn't tour. And so after that, Bob Ezrin was saying, why don't we just do something fun, that could be done during the lockdown. And like Ian was saying, when we write together, you have to get everybody's input, because without everybody giving the thumbs up, the song's just not going to live, So we all, by being together in the same room, it's just the natural process. However, during this record, Bob grudgingly gave the okay to add some new material or put some different parts in the songs. And, of course, that's what I wanted to do, was take some of the stuff, and where it got to be real repetitive, just add some weird, in some cases, crazy parts.
Yeah.
So the first hurdle for me was doing a demo of that, and then convincing not only the band, but Bob Ezrin too, that this was a good idea. And so not all of those ideas lived, but most of them did.
Well, Don Airy we suggested doing the band's Chest Fever, which is just a lovely groove, Bob Dylan's the band. Anyway, Don did the demo for that, but he went mad on it. And instead of it staying like a nice groove, he put a 9/8 section in the middle of it, which totally didn't work. So I spent about 5 days getting the drum track right for that, sent it off to Ezra, and he went, nah, that's no good. We've thrown that away.
That's interesting. Go ahead.
That's the problem with doing remote recording, is you can put a lot of work in, then finally pass it around to everybody. No, if you're in the same room, you can sketch it out in a few seconds.
2 minutes, it's changed. Yeah.
Big difference.
So we've got a let's see. Owen came up with a good question here on our chat here. He said you've got a story, I believe it's Ian, about being with Jimi Hendrix in a bathroom.
Well,
what is that?
It's not quite as bad.
Excuse me, Ian. I didn't know you would like that.
So did, what's his name? The guy Pee Wee Herman. Was it anything like that?
The night before he died in London, we were both in the same nightclub. Carmine played there, the Speakeasy, years before.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's where I first saw you play live.
Right.
And we just happened to go to take a leak at the same time together. And it was, hi, Jim, how are you? I'm fine, how are you? Yeah. And that was it. And he was in real good form. And
what are we talking about here?
He wasn't, So that's all it was,
Wow.
2 rockers that met in the night and crossed swords.
Cross swords. That's kind of funny. Hey, Ian, could you take us on a little tour of your wall?
I'll try.
That's pretty cool wall. Look at that.
Oh
Holy
my God.
smokes, look at that.
Wow. That's a lot of wall.
Oh, we froze.
Well, it's cheaper than wallpaper.
That's great.
Well, you know,
that's
it's funny. Nobody gets those anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody
Well, if
gets
you do it for
gold
10,
records and platinum
you
records.
sell 10 records and you get one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, maybe so.
I got a wooden album, 10 times.
Did you? I mean, being back in the day, obviously, one of the founding era or the founding years, back in the late '60s, early '70s. Obviously the Beatles, that whole deal. Did you have a whole lot of, or not a whole lot, but you have some interaction with the Beatles? I know that you did, I believe, record with Paul later on, right?
Yeah, my first connection with the Fabs was with George,
The Fabs.
who was a local to me when I moved into my house here in '76. His house was about 3 miles away, and there was a bunch of musicians in the area. Dave Gilmore lived here. Alvin Lee from 10 Years After lived here. Obviously George. Other people, I just can't remember. It's so long ago. So of course you meet each other. So my first connection was with George. Then a little later I met Ringo. I meet him every 10 or 15 years. And about 20 years ago, I just got a call from Paul's office saying, would you like to do a simple rock record with Paul? So what do you say?
Yeah, right.
Nah. Nobody ever heard him.
Yeah, guy will never get far. So, it was simple as that. And we took 5 days to record that record. Paul came with a bunch of sheet music, basically, or songs he'd written from when he was a kid, the things that he really enjoyed. And he said, look, we're going to record it live, which we did. All the instruments were exactly the same position as when the Beatles went in there for their first couple of records. One of the drums where Ringo's was, and his bass was where it was, and the two guitarists were where George and John were. You just want it to be like that. And we recorded the same way. Start at 10, lunch at 1, back at 2, go home at 5. That was it, like a factory.
Wow.
And we just did the song. We said, look, we're going to try it. If we don't get it in 2 or 3 takes, we'll forget about it. And we did a couple. He went, that's not working. He threw it on the floor, picked another. We'll try this one. 2 minutes, work an arrangement out, knock it down. And that's how we did it.
Wow.
But he's a fantastic guy. Just somebody whose life is just totally different to anything we can imagine. He's a really nice
I only met him one time at the Olympia in London when I was with Rod, because we used to hear the story that George Harrison used to carry the first Vanilla Fudge album around with him in London at parties. And when he'd go into the party, he'd take off whatever was on and put the Vanilla Fudge on. So, it was a rumor. So when I met Paul, I said, is there any truth in that? And he said, definitely. He used to piss people off, go into parties and take it off, put the fudge on, no matter who was on the turntable.
I'll give you another fudge story of that same record. Ian Gillan and I, we were going to go on holiday together. Rented a boat and go up and down the Thames, little pleasure cruiser, And we all planned out the 2 ladies would be joining us, and it would be a great 2 weeks, Well, it started to go wrong immediately. Neither ladies joined us. So it was just him and I. And I like to go fishing, not so much now but then I did. So I had all this lovely fishing gear, but I got this boom box, tiny by today's standards, but big for its time. And I had the fudge thing on it, And everywhere I was going, playing it. No. I got my fishing rod out there, shotguns banging out there, and I'm getting no fish. Nothing's happening. About 10 yards down the bank, there's a little guy there with a twig with a bit of rope on it, pulling trout out like this. So hang on, little boy, do you want to come and fish off our boat? Yeah, sure. So I get off the boat. He gets on the boat. I take my boombox with me. So I'm still in the same thing with all this expensive gear, with shotgun still blaring out. He is now on the boat. He's catching the fish there. It never registered. You can't play rock and roll and catch fish.
Yeah, right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, it's basically can't do two things. Rock and rollers can't do two things at one time. We know that. That's the whole issue.
All the fish going like that.
I have a short story about a beetle, because the first tour we did in UK, Ian, we were rehearsing at David Gilmour's
Studio.
barn or whatever.
Barn studio, yeah.
Yeah. And so we were taking a break, and Rogers, for some reason, I was riding in Roger's car, and he says, "You fancy having tea with Liv and George?" I said, "Whatever. Yeah, sure."
Whatever.
And so we pull up to this place with real fancy, big fence around it, and wrought iron and a big brick house. I said, "Wow, it's a big house." And Roger smiled and said, "That's not the house. It was the guard house."
The gatehouse, yeah.
So we go in
funny.
there, and he did this just to get my reaction, but he finally let me figure out that George and Liv is George Harrison and his wife Olivia. So, okay, wow, okay, that's cool. Just because I'm in the band, I get to meet a Beatle. That's pretty awesome. And he was very nice.
So being, finish your story.
Yeah, it was just a guy, more of a just tourist, whatever is happening is fine with me kind of guy. And to have that suddenly happen was pretty cool. But
I had that kind of experience with Fred Astaire.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, and it was a rod party again, and I see somebody walking over to me. He's a big guy, and he goes, "Hi, I'm Gregory. It's Gregory Peck." Right? He says, I know who you are. My mother would go crazy if she was here now." And he said, I was sitting at the show when you did your drum solo. I was sitting with Fred Astaire. And Fred Astaire said, "That's the best solo I've seen since Gene Krupa." And I said, "Wow,
All
Fred
right.
Astaire said that." I said,
Well, Fred could
and then I'm
play as
thinking,
well.
thinking, Gregory Peck telling me this, I'm like, oh my God, So then he
Different
said,
world.
Fred's a drummer. He really he doesn't know
He's
how to
good.
play rock drums,
Yeah.
I said, well, look, I have a book. I have an instructional book.
And it's only
Oh, man.
$29.95.
Yeah, he says, if you can give me the book,
It's
he
in
said, if
the
you can give me
trunk.
the book, I'll give it to Fred. I go, okay,
Yeah.
Greg, and now we're on first term basis.
Greg.
So he lived next door to Rod. So I go up to his big gates and, to his house and give him the book. I put some message in it.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, I get an envelope from Ava Productions. And it says, "Hi, Carmine Paice. Thank you for the book with a lovely message. I've enjoyed your work many times. Love, Fred Astaire." I said,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah.
And I was thinking the same thing. I said, man, here I am, a kid from Brooklyn. I just got a letter from Fred Astaire.
That's
How
awesome.
cool is that? I got it hanging in the studio over there.
Well, it's almost
Awesome.
as cool as a kid from Ohio being winding up in Deep Purple.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Right?
I was
Steve?
going to say,
Oh, I know.
you being the only American, you must catch all the English lingo.
We do hold it against him, you know that.
Yeah, right.
There's
Figured
many
that.
things to remember about the difference of the language, and it's amazing, and like there are some things you can't, mention, like the words for cigarettes and the little pack that you wear around your waist. That there's words that mean
they
different
don't translate.
things.
No.
Yeah, they don't translate. But like a boot is not something you wear; it's something you open to get to the spare tire
In your car. Yeah, exactly.
Tell you,
Well, you don't get a lot of cup of coffee. You'll get a cup of tea, mate.
No,
Yeah.
Cup of the old
It's a big
Rosie.
learning
Cup of the old Rosie.
A lovely
Right.
Vicky Lord story. This John's wife. We were living in California at the time, mid-70s. Jackie and I, and Vicky and John, and Vicky was a bit of an artist, Anyway, we're staying at I think we were staying at the Beverly Wilshire, in the middle of a tour, and she needed some art supplies. Now, she didn't realize that an eraser, which we don't call an eraser in England, we call it a rubber. So she walked into the art store and said, "Have you got any rubbers?"
Oh,
The guy was very confused.
man.
And he had to explain to her that you call it an eraser.
Wow.
Well, I guess it could. Ours could be called an eraser too in some way.
Yeah, right.
But
Yeah, that's true.
I guess we can.
Is it before or after the event?
Exactly. That's funny. Yeah, there's a lot of that. The European translation, non-translation situation there.
I was doing a guitar
before
clip.
football. Football's another one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
You say tomato.
Yeah,
I was doing a guitar clinic in, explaining how I played something. And it was in Scandinavia, maybe in Finland. I can't. And I was saying, well, index finger, then middle finger, and then use the pinky just for this. And you hear chuckles. So anyway, now here I'm stretching with the pinky, chuckles, laughs. Well, it means it's a euphemism in slang for something you can't talk about on the air. But
you can say anything on this show.
Yeah,
You can say anything.
Well,
we've used the word pinky a lot on this show, Steve.
Okay. All right, male appendage.
Same number of letters anyway.
So
Yeah,
nobody told me until like I had cracked them up about 20 times. Then finally, a guy
using
says,
your pinky. Got it.
Because I said, why are you guys laughing every time I say that? And the guy, he couldn't even stop laughing to explain it to me.
Yeah.
But finally did.
That's great.
Notice there's an English slang, Ian, and I got a pain in my old Gregory.
Yeah.
Right?
What is that?
Gregory Peck.
Yeah. So when I met Gregory Peck,
he told him.
I said, there's a slang about you in England. He said, yeah, what is it? I told him, they say I got a pain in my old Gregory. And he goes, what does that mean? It's Gregory Peck rhyming neck.
Yeah.
He says,
Oh,
I never knew that. That's so hilarious.
Well,
They have millions.
his life was now complete.
They have millions
I know
of
mine
them.
is.
They call it Cockney rhyming slang or rhyming
Yeah,
slang.
Yeah.
And Bob Daisley reminded me of one. He said, "I'll see you later, me old China.
Yeah.
China plate, mate.
Yeah.
Mate is your buddy."
Yeah.
Right.
So
I'm
here-
going to say a cup of the old Rosie.
Rosie Lee.
Cup of the
tea.
Rosie Lee tea.
Tea.
I'm just going down the Frog and Toad. Go down the road.
Yeah.
Right.
It was the way of the East End underworld communicating with each other. They could do it in front of the local law enforcement, and they never knew what they were talking about. So it was criminal slang.
Wow.
I've
That's
Never
we
heard
used to
that
have pig-
before.
We used to have Pig Latin in Brooklyn. I can't remember how it used to go, but
Igpe Edenley.
yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow, I haven't heard that in a
Pig.
while. Hey.
Pig
Wow.
Latin.
Hey, guys, on your just real quick, I'd like to go back to the new album just for a second. Usually, obviously, on an album, there's at least one quote unquote single. Since this is an album of basically covers, what would you pick as the single off the album?
We don't. We let the record company do that. We know how to make the damn things. They know how to sell them.
I see.
Uh,
So from
Well,
all
they
your
used
albums,
to. They used to know how to sell them.
yeah, true.
Yeah, now forget about it.
Quite honestly, if we didn't like the track, it wouldn't be on the record. So you choose one. Sometimes you're too inside it. Occasionally, you get one that sticks out, but usually just let somebody who's got no axe to grind, other than the fact that I like that one better than that one. Let them choose it.
I like
Then
I
it's
like
their
Oh
fault.
Well. I like Oh Well and Shapes things because in both cases they let me go outside a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
especially on Oh Well, I put a whole crazy section in there,
Oh yeah,
which
that's a
which was
great
fun.
section. It
took-
really
and
is.
And it comes back to they finally bought my idea about having that slow, the second side of Oh Well was the slow version. And so I put the slow version in there, playing the melody on harmonics, artificial harmonics of the guitar. And
Yeah,
so,
worked well.
so
So
instead
what's
of a
the,
recorder.
An obvious question. Since you guys are starting to come out together, you start writing together soon.
who knows? Things are changing in our world as we speak.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For sure.
We're all hoping it comes back to some sort of normality, whether it be medically or politically, so we can get back to doing what we need to do, and that's enjoy life. All of us, So watch this space. I think we're all watching the same space,
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's real. It was before the show started. And I get a kick out of this too when before we start, and Carmine and Vinny many times are bringing up the stories about the clinics that they did. There's so many of them, and I think it's just an amazing thing, because I'm sure, without getting too personal, but I'm sure the money isn't retirement money. But it's just amazing how you guys are all so willing to share your experiences, your experience, your talent in these clinics, and it seems like you get almost as excited as the people in the clinics. I mean, is it something that gives you a certain level of reward, a personal reward?
Definitely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. I got a bug on my.
That's
You got a bug on it.
By the way, I'm in the barn because
there's an alligator.
I'm in my hay barn where the
Oh,
equipment
really?
is.
No kidding. You have a hay barn?
That's a hay baler right there.
Oh wow!
Oh shit!
You have
Well,
horses too? You have horses?
Just so I could be closer to where the modem is, so I could get
Gotcha.
better
you
internet.
have a horse?
Thank you for doing that.
No, I don't have a horse. I make the hay for the horses. All right, so doing the clinics for me is absolutely, it's like one of the things I know I can do. And I know it's the time to do it because I've got over 5 decades of playing. So why not share what I've learned to those people who are willing to listen and want to know. So it works out perfectly. And Vinny and I just did a thing together, and he was doing the same thing, whipping a band into shape for us to go and play in the club that night.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah.
I think doing clinics is weird.
Okay. and with that,
leave it to the English guy to say that, right?
Good night, everybody.
Steve is a natural teacher. He has a technique and the knowledge to impart that to him. I can't do that. All I can do is show people what I can do. And sometimes it works, and I go, that was a really good clinic. And sometimes it doesn't, and I wish I was somewhere else.
Really?
But I can't tell people what I do, because I really don't know what I'm doing myself. I know it works, but I have no real knowledge about it, and I have no interest in finding out. I just don't.
Now that's the Englishman in you coming out.
So you never took lessons or anything, right?
No.
Okay.
Everything I got was from listening to guys like you and watching other guys on stage and saying, I like that, I'll take that. I don't like that, I won't use that.
Yeah. Yeah. See,
Wow.
for me, I studied when I was a kid, and I learned how to read and play and all the techniques. And I did my first clinic in 1972 when I released my book, Realistic Rock. And the Ludwig Drum Company said, look, you releasing a book, you got to do clinics to promote it. And I said, I do? So what do I got to do? And then they took me on a 3-day symposium that Vinny went with me. And we saw Joe Morello doing a clinic for 3 days. And then I took over for him. And when Joe asked me to play with him, I said, no way. I'm going to play with Joe Morello. And then Vinny was like 8 years old, and he's pulling on my pants. Go ahead, Carm.
Go get it.
Vinny, you can play with Joe Morello.
Come on, big brother.
Yeah, so then I ended up doing it, and that's when I realized that I can do stuff that like guys like Joe Morello and Buddy Rich can't do.
No.
Because I do my rock stuff. I was doing the hi-hat things and swishes and I said, oh, okay, you can't do that. I'll just do more of that stuff.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But then I learned to do a clinic from Joe, and he said, teach him, make him laugh, and play well, and you'll always have a successful clinic.
Well, telling them stories is usually the way. And sometimes they'll come up with a really good question, one that nobody's asked you before, and that's very rare, But when they do, you can say, oh, yeah, this is what I did. I don't know why I did it, but this is what I did, and you can do that. But quite honestly, so many times the questions are the same. And unless you can keep your own interest up, it's very, very hard to to keep their interest up, because I don't teach that way. I just can't do it. It's not in me. I don't know. They know more about what I did than I did.
Yeah.
You know, so you know.
Yeah, but they come to
these
see you
questions
play. They want to see you play and talk about it. You know?
That's
And
right.
stories.
I had a funny story with clinics. I did like this clinic run one time in the 70s. I just done Paul Stanley's album. I did one track on it, and I did, you know, when we play, we just play whatever we feel. So I don't know what drum fills I did. So I start the first clinic, guy was saying, what's those fills you did at the end of Paul Stanley's album? I said, I'll be honest, I don't remember, because I just play what I feel. Second day, another question, the same question. Third day, I said, I asked the store owner, do you have that new Paul Stanley album by any chance? He said, no, there's a record store down the street. So I went down the street, bought the cassette. I listened to it. Sure enough, for the next 3 clinics, I got a question about that song, every one. And now I knew what I was talking about, you know, but at first I didn't know, you know. And
Have you ever had this as well? You ever had this where you get asked, could you play this for me? And you just can't play it because you're on your own.
Mm-hmm.
When you're playing with your band, you're all working off each other, and something which is simple within the band by yourself becomes very difficult because you haven't got that vibe around you.
Yeah, right. They don't realize that.
You know, I mean, it's really strange where you go, well, I know what I should do, but it's not feeling right, therefore I can't do it. But if you've got a guitarist and a bass player and a keyboard, then it does work. It's really strange.
Well, it is interesting because we all know that the drum, you know, for the most part, you know, the drummers are kind of leading the situation, but it's amazing just how much you guys actually do feed off each other. You may or may not realize it until you're alone, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
By yourself, you might pick the wrong tempo.
Yeah.
And you
I always chose from the very first clinic to have a bass player and a guitar player available. So you can play with each other and say, well, this is what I just taught you. Now watch how it works with the band.
Yeah,
you know? Even though the band didn't know what the hell they were doing.
That's for sure.
That
Guys, Ian, Steve, what can we say? Legendary. It's our honor, really, to be on our show today. Thank you so much. God bless you guys being on the road, and hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
Stay out of those areas you just mentioned at the beginning.
Stay out of those areas.
And keep in touch, you guys. All right, keep in touch.
Great to see you two, man. Lovely to see you both.
Love you guys, man.
And Stevie,
Thank you.
we'll be
Bye,
in
Ian.
touch.
See you, Steve.
See you.
All the best, guys.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Once again, it's another great show right here, our 80th episode on Artists on Lockdown, Hangin' Bangin', where each week on Thursday night we talk to some of the legendary performers in rock and roll, frontmen, sidemen, and everybody in between. Just another great night. I tell you what, these shows are just amazing to me personally. I'm honored and humbled to be in the presence of greatness. And I say that with deep sincerity, being here with my brothers, Carmine and Vinny. Apicea Peace are mixing with me and switching their names tonight. I'm not even going to get into it. But each week we are here on a Thursday night, 4 o'clock on the West Coast, 7 o'clock on the East Coast, 6 o'clock by me here in the Midwest. Next week, we'll see you the same bad time, same back channel. Make sure you follow us, you like us, you share, you tell everybody about us, find out about or follow us on Facebook and our podcast on Spotify. So until next week, stay cool, keep on rocking, and we'll see you hanging and banging next Thursday.